Hi, so Tracy and I are back, and now we're going to talk to you a little bit about self-care. And this is something that comes up quite a lot in our community. Self-care is maybe a bit of a triggering topic for a lot of our families because, if you say to somebody, "Well, are you making sure you take care of yourself?" It just sounds like another chore. It just sounds like another thing that you're asking me to do that I'm probably going to fail at. And also, I don't feel like I deserve self care because my child is seizing every day, all the time, has behaviors, doesn't nobody sleeps. We have all these other issues that we're dealing with, and so who has time for self care? And of course, a lot of us, I think, when we think of self care, we think of uh, going on a cruise or going out for date night with our husbands or partners, and that is self-care, but we don't think small very often. And maybe we need to. Maybe we need to think of where are the moments in our day where we can just take some time to give to ourselves just a little something. And just think of what you do every morning. You wake up, you have a cup of tea, a cup of coffee, yeah, if you send your kids off to school and you take, a few minutes to just listen to a piece of music, or even the time that you're spent in the car driving them to and from, if you're listening to some great music, something that just makes you feel part of the world instead of part of the war that you're living, that can be great. So think of little things like a glass of wine at the end of the day or a cup of tea. Um, after my son goes to bed, and because of a lot of his medications, he actually falls asleep kind of early. But he also wakes up a lot during the night, and he also wakes up really early in the morning for good. So um, I could go to sleep, and I probably should, but I don't. I take that time to sit down with a glass of wine or a cup of tea and a bag of chips. There's always a bag of chips involved. And I love to binge watch something. I love to stream a good TV show. And that to me is a little bit of something for me. And I don't need anybody to criticize my taste in TV shows because I have no time for that. I am just going to enjoy my TV show. Now, I used to love to read, but because I don't sleep very well, and because for I don't know many reasons, um, I can only do Audible now. So for a while, for a few years, I didn't read because I would fall asleep. And now I take my son for a long walk. I'll put him in his wheelchair about 4 or 5 times a week. I will just put him in his chair, and I live right by a bike path, and we'll take an hour-long walk, hour and a half, and he's happy. So I'm feeling like I'm doing something for him. But at the same time, aha, I'm doing something for me too. I've got my little book in my ear, and I'm completely enjoying whatever it is I'm wrapped up in. So that feels like something a little decadent, or just if you want to open a bag of cookies at the end of the day and just indulge, by all means do that. I don't think that we sometimes don't take good care of our own health, so we have to do that. But, chatting with a friend or treating yourself to a little something. My friend community is tight. And I have these four girlfriends. And one time I said to one of them, oh, I forgot to get milk and bread at the grocery store. And she just lit up and she said, "Oh my gosh, that's what I can do for you. I can actually, go to the grocery store, and if I'm out there, I'll just text you and say, 'Do you need anything?' And I can pick it up and run it over to you." And I realized that that was important to her because she feels like she feels helpless and how to help me and my son. And now she has a way that she can just help me. And I told her that you have to promise to take money, because in the beginning she was like, it's just a couple of things, don't worry about it. And I said, no, no, if you're not going to take the money, then I'm not going to ask. I'm not going to let you do this for me. So we have an agreement. I give her the list, she picks up stuff, and then she delivers it to my house, and she just doesn't she lives like 10 minutes from me. But the ultimate self-care that I think that needs to be pointed out is we have a private online Facebook community, and there are over 7,000 members in that group. And so many people have said when they discovered that group that it has been life-changing for them because they're talking to another parent who gets it, another caregiver. So please find your community. I think that is the ultimate in self-care. What about you, Tracy? What is your self-care secret?
Yeah, I remember when we brought self-care to our community for the first time, and it was not well received. I mean, I think, when with Lennox-Gastaut, it's a very severe epilepsy syndrome, right? And we're dealing with life and death a lot, right? I feel like that's what we do. And if it's not life and death, then we're dealing with things like feeding and toileting and, taking medicine, right? Like just things to keep this person from going into another crisis, right? And and I think I think you're right. I think the reason that the community didn't react to it well, and the reason that I never reacted to it well, was because it was too big. You think about, going to the spa. Like none of us are going to the spa. We have a sick kid, right? And it's all hands on deck over here. And so I think making it smaller. So for me, it's my coffee first thing in the morning. I just want to drink my coffee or my tea and think of nothing and do nothing, just that quiet time and not feeling guilty in the morning that I'm taking that time for myself. That is self-care. And I think also for me, I love audiobooks, right? And I love fiction that's going to take me to another world. The more dragons, the more vampires, the better, because I don't want to think about real life, because our real lives are really, really devastating. Our kids are very, very sick. I think also when you think about self-care, you have to think about it in the long term. Initially when Savannah first got sick, and about a year in the journey, I became very depressed, and I went to a very, very dark place. Thankfully I I got counseling, and then I also, went on some anti-seizure medicine or some antidepressants. I got seizures on my brain, but some antidepressants, and I climbed out of that hole, right? And I am not going back. If I catch myself sort of falling down that spiral again, and it's very tied to how well my daughter's doing, I do take the steps that I need to. I go outside, I go see a friend, I go for a walk, I watch a movie, right? I do something to get me out of it. But I also think you have to look long term, right? Because we co-sleep. So Savannah sleeps in our room with us because we've had incidents where she stopped breathing in the middle of the night because of her seizures. And that's the choice we've made, but none of us sleep very well. And now that I'm in my 50s, I'm starting to experience a lot of health issues, right? Because of lack of sleep, because of poor diet. And so about a year ago, when the doctor was like, hey, your cholesterol's creeping up, hey, you need to lose a few pounds, the things that all of us, get told, we started to pivot our lifestyle, and just one small change at a time. Hey, we're just going to plan out lunches. We're going to pre-make lunches, on Sunday, and we'll make something so that we know that at lunchtime we're not scarfing a hot dog and, chips and a couple of pieces of candy because that's all we had, right? Like we're really planning out a healthy, we love like chili and soup and things. So we make a big pot on Sunday, and then we packaged it for the week. And so just one small change. And if we succeed in that once, we've succeeded, right? It's not this like massive lifestyle change. And what we've noticed that as we do this more and more, we're starting to develop habits. Our brain is mapping out new, neural networks, and we're getting healthier about eating. We have more healthy options, and, my weight's coming down and my blood pressure's coming down, right? And so you have to think in the long term, and it's not selfish to do those things, right? I mean, and don't get me wrong, I indulge on chips and cookies. That's not the problem over here. But when you take these moments for yourself, you're actually going to be a better caregiver. And it is hard to think about self-care because it is so taxing to be a caregiver. But one quote that's always resonated with me is that make time for health or you will make time for disease. And I think that's what's happened in my family. And thankfully, we've caught it early enough, and we've been dedicated enough to kind of flip it and reverse it. She's eating like a queen, right? I'm making all this really healthy food for her, but then over here, I'm scarfing, fast food and eating cereal at 9 o'clock at night, right? And that's not going to ensure that I'm here in the long run to take care of her. So it's really important to prioritize it. It's really important, for Jen said, to find your community. I'd be lost without our caregiver community of people who have been there, done that. And then my friend circle is not as like big and solid as Jen's, but my family, me and my husband and my son, like we are really connected and really close, and we really support each other. So having all of that is self-care. And the trick is not feeling bad about it. And the trick is carving out time, because if you don't carve out time, you're going to be scarfing cereal at 9 o'clock at night because you didn't plan. But it's okay to carve some time for you.
Awesome. That is so great, Tracy. I'm so glad that you mentioned mental health as well, because that is something that, that we have to really be mindful of. And I think that it impacts us. There are a lot of people that are struggling in our community. So, hopefully there are people that are not in those dark places, but if they are, that they're going to learn these tools, and take these tips and get better earlier so that they're not struggling so much in those early days as you and I did. Thanks, everybody.